Good morning and welcome to this place. In keeping with this day, today's service will be contemplative and reflective as we recount the story of Christ's crucifixion. We will retell and remember the story into our being. We trace the narrative through John's Gospel. We will read scripture and use poetry, prayer, music and prose to allow us to enter the story further. We acknowledge that we gather this day on the land of the Kaurna Nation. We honour their spiritual connection and the spiritual connection all Indigenous people have with their land, and we offer our respect. To a people who understand loss and pain, who struggle for justice and recognition, may we be open to their voice as we enter this sacred story again, this Good Friday.
We come to a darkened place on this darkened day to hear the story and remember, to remain with Jesus and remember. We remember that Jesus was betrayed by one of his own, by the leaders of his people, convicted by an empire and the prompting of his people, executed as a criminal for crimes against his religion, the crimes of love and justice.
The reading is from John chapter 18, verses 1 to 12. After Jesus had spoken these words, he went out with his disciples across the Kidron Valley to a place where there was a garden, which he and his disciples entered. Now Judas, who betrayed him, also knew the place, because Jesus often met there with his disciples. So Judas brought a detachment of soldiers together with police from the chief priests and the Pharisees, and they came there with lanterns and torches and weapons. Then Jesus, knowing all that was to happen to him, came forward and asked them, "Whom are you looking for?" They answered, "Jesus of Nazareth." Jesus replied, "I am he." Judas, who betrayed him, was standing with them. When Jesus said to them, "I am he," they stepped back and fell to the ground. Again he asked them, "Whom are you looking for?" And they said, "Jesus of Nazareth." Jesus answered, "I told you that I am he. So if you are looking for me, let these men go." This was to fulfill the word that he had spoken, "I did not lose a single one of those whom you gave me." Then Simon Peter, who had a sword, drew it and struck the high priest's slave and cut off his right ear. This slave's name was Malchus. Jesus said to Peter, "Put your sword back into its sheath. Am I not to drink the cup that the Father has given me?" So the soldiers, their officer, and the Jewish police arrested Jesus and bound him.
Here it begins. Each season, each moment, a slow dance of death, grace seeping from the world as though to disappear forever, an open invitation to be undone or revised, perhaps both. So lonely the journey, one we can't bear to watch, much less walk. A path not taken, at least not before this day, in this way. We wish that he, like we, could take a road more traveled, instead of these twisted stairs. Like a dark forest, shadows loom with each step, powers poise in balance. Like a danger cry, harsh words eclipse hope. Crucify him, crucify him. Even today, mystery hangs waiting. Is he for or against us? Would we praise or punish, defend or deny? Can love make this journey without being dissembled by evil? Walk on in this twilight, if you desire the courage to find yourself in this story. Walk on in this twilight, if you long for patience to wait through the night beyond. Walk on in this twilight, if you seek for faith to believe that God can be so weak, yet this large. Walk and watch, wait and wonder. Place a stone in your shoe as you walk this path. May it break your skin and spike your soul. May it alter your path. May pain birth promise. May love burst through flesh and bone, spirit and soul, so that hope may rise again, and earth and heaven be as one. Walk on, knowing that love also walks this lonely road with you. Walk on.
We pick up the story again from where we left it last night. Jesus urged his friends to stay by him, to remain with him, to keep watch and to pray. We come together to share this story, and through our remembering, we seek to remain faithful to the Jesus story. We keep watch and pray.
Keep watch and pray, for in doing so we follow his footsteps to the cross, to relive the story and remember it into our current reality. This story is not an isolated account of a man executed by an empire 2,000 years ago. This is the story of suffering, the suffering of our world, the suffering of our lives. It is the story that sees love, justice, and compassion suffer, receive deep and painful wounds, and appear breathless.
By staying and remaining alongside the pain, the suffering or injustice that is present, we acknowledge the humanity of those who suffer. We embody love, respect, and dignity for the oppressed. Jesus' suffering is not a battle for personal piety. Rather, it is a demonstration in unconditions. Unconditional love, unconditional acceptance, unconditional forgiveness, unconditional grace. When we stand with Jesus, we are asked to stand in a place free from conditions, to stand in solidarity with those who suffer, the oppressed and the marginalised of this world, and that which may suffer within each and every one of us. This is the journey that Jesus walked. It was demanded by love itself. There is no other way. It is for justice, love, and peace. For these, our brothers and sisters, and for ourselves, we walk on. God have mercy. Christ have mercy.
From John 18, 15 to 27. Simon Peter and another disciple followed Jesus. Since that disciple was known to the high priest, he went with Jesus into the courtyard of the high priest. But Peter was standing outside at the gate. So the other disciple, who was known to the high priest, went out, spoke to the woman who guarded the gate, and brought Peter in. The woman said to Peter, "You are not also the one of this man's disciples, are you?" He said, "I am not." Now the slaves and the police had made a charcoal fire because it was cold, and they were standing around it and warming themselves. Peter also was standing with them and warming himself. Then the high priest questioned Jesus about his disciples and about his teaching. Jesus answered, "I have spoken openly to the world. I have always taught in synagogues and in the temple, where all the Jews come together. I have said nothing in secret. Why do you ask me? Ask those who heard what I said to them. They know what I said." When he had said this, one of the police standing nearby struck Jesus on the face, saying, "Is that how you answer the high priest?" Jesus answered, "If I have spoken wrongly, testify to the wrong. But if I have spoken rightly, why do you strike me?" Then Annas sent him bound to Caiaphas the high priest. Now Simon Peter was standing and warming himself. They asked him, "You are not also one of the disciples, are you?" He denied it and said, "I am not." One of the slaves of the high priest, a relative of the man whose ear Peter had cut off, asked, Did I not see you in the garden with him?" Again Peter denied it, and at that moment the cock crowed.
The cock crows and we find ourselves exposed, cowering in the realization that we do not measure up. We do not stand firm. We see the suffering and find ourselves complicit in its making. What have we done, O God?
We see the degradation of the planet, oceans poisoned by plastics, marine life strangled by the extravagance and carelessness of our living, islands inundated by rising seas, and clouds of toxic smoke choking cities. The cock crows and we find ourselves exposed. What have we done, O God?
We see the plain of those who are bullied to the point of desperation, driven to suicide and self-harm. We know that closed doors and silence only permit domestic violence to continue. The cock crows and we find ourselves exposed. What have we done, O God?
Factories collapse and the clothes on our back find us guilty. Racial slurs are shouted. The gaps between the have and the have-nots grow. Armchair opinions are offered on wars fought overseas, yet refuge is refused to those who seek mercy. The cock crows and we find ourselves exposed. What have we done, O God?
Our eyes are open, and we find it too hard to follow Christ to the cross. Forgive us, O God.
The cost is too great, the weight is too much, and we find our faith wanting.
Forgive us, O God. We have been silent. We have run when we should have stood firm. We have buried our heads in the sand and preferred the comfort of denial. Forgive us, O God.
The crushing revelation of our actions leaves us ashamed.
Forgive us, O God. We walk on. God have mercy. Christ have mercy.
Then Pilate took Jesus and had him flogged. And the soldiers wove a crown of thorns and put it on his head, and they dressed him in a purple robe. They kept coming up to him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" and striking him on the face. Pilate went out again and said to them, "Look, I am bringing him out to you to let you know that I find no case against him." So Jesus came out wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe. Pilate said to them, "Here is the man." When the chief priests and the police saw him, they shouted, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Pilate said to them, "Take him yourselves and crucify him. I find no case against him." The Jews answered him, "We have a law, and according to that law he ought to die, because he has claimed to be the Son of God." Now it was the day of preparation for the Passover, and it was about noon. He said to the Jews, "Here is your king." They cried out, "Away with him! Away with him! Crucify him!" Pilate asked them, "Shall I crucify your king?" The chief priests answered, "We have no king but the emperor." Then he handed him over to them to be crucified. So they took Jesus, and carrying the cross by himself, he went out to what is called the place of the skull, which in Hebrew is called Golgotha.
Then they led him away to be crucified. On their way out, they met a man from Cyrene, Simon by name, and they compelled him to carry Jesus' cross.
"I am Simon. I come from Cyrene. And I would have not have been in Jerusalem today if it had not been for my business. I am a traveller. And perhaps I would not have been asked to carry the cross if I was not so obvious. 'Hey you foreigner, come here,' they shouted. What can a stranger say in a crowd of locals? Jesus, I don't know what all this is about. I've never seen such degrading cruelty, and the reason is beyond my understanding. What did you do to make people hate you? What did you do to get hung on a cross? You never robbed a bank. You never mugged innocent people. You never raped women, swindled money, planned an armed struggle, or committed treason. Most people say you were a holy man. Some say you were God's son. If this is the case, why are the religious people persecuting you?
There they crucified him, and with him 2 others, one on either side, with Jesus between them. Pilate also had an inscription written and put on the cross. It read, "Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews." Many of the Jews read this inscription because the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and it was written in Hebrew, in Latin, and in Greek. Then the chief priests of the Jews said to Pilate, "Do not write 'the King of the Jews,' but 'This man said, I am King of the Jews.'" Pilate answered, "What I have written, I have written." When the soldiers had crucified Jesus, they took his clothes and divided them into 4 parts, one for each soldier. They also took his tunic. Now the tunic was seamless, woven in one piece from the top. So they said to one another, "Let us not tear it, but cast lots for it to see who will get it." This was to fulfill what the scripture says, "They divided my clothes among themselves, and for my clothing they cast lots." And that is what the soldiers did.
Mocked, derided. We get it in Australia, don't we? You know, tall poppy syndrome. We like to put ourselves down before anyone else can take the opportunity. And the betting, we love to have a wager. We love to make a competition out of anything and everything. Yet surely this is different. A crown of thorns, a purple robe. I wonder where that tunic is now.
We walk on. God have mercy.
Christ have mercy.
Meanwhile, standing near the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing beside her, he said to his mother, "Woman, here is your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Here is your mother." And from that hour the disciple took her into his own home.
I wonder, Jesus, how hard it was to see your mother standing there watching you die. Mary, what on earth could you have been thinking?
Let me hold you one more time, for the nights get darker, and the air gets colder, and the whispers get louder. Let me hold you and breathe you in, for things are shifting, and the wheels are turning, and the merry-go-round is spinning. Let me hold you close, like a child, for I remember your chubby fingers, and your arms raised in request, and your toothy grin and cheeky chuckle. Let me hold you and protect you, for this festival is a farce, and there is something not right, and I can see that you know it too. Let me hold you one more time, for you must be tired, and you must be frightened, and there is so far yet to go.
We stop walking and watch on. God have mercy. Christ have mercy.
After this, when Jesus knew that all was now finished, he said, in order to fulfill the scripture, "I am thirsty." And a jar full of sour wine was standing there. So they put a sponge full of the wine on a branch of hyssop and held it to his mouth.
Jesus, when the body is shutting down, when taking a breath is difficult, when life is draining out of you with each bead of sweat, I wonder then, Jesus, what it is to thirst. What did you thirst for? A drop of moisture to soothe the dry gasp that came with each failing breath? Perhaps this thirst meets the thirst of a world that longs to be filled with living water, quenching the thirst of the gasping and cooling the throats of the parched, washing the world clean, letting the world live. Your thirst, that we might drink deep. Your thirst, that we might bathe. Your thirst, that we might drown in its life. Sour wine, living water.
We watch on. God have mercy. Christ have mercy.
Then he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. When Jesus had received the wine, he said, "It is finished."
After all the mocking, all the torture, all the pain, and in front of those who watched from the crowd, he said, "It is finished."
I wonder, Jesus, what makes this day good if you are finished. I wonder if we fully grasp that in your ending we may find our beginning, and that through the mystery of this day you speak of a different reality. If you have ever believed that love inevitably leads to betrayal, this day says it doesn't. If you have ever believed that some people are unlovable, irredeemable, This day says they aren't. If you have ever believed that there is a limit to forgiveness, this day says there isn't. If you have ever believed you aren't worth saving, this day says you are. If you have ever believed that you don't deserve freedom, this day says you do. If you have ever believed that fear, anger, hate, and despair will always win, this day says they won't. Because it is finished. This day says we are not.
We watch on. God have mercy. Christ have mercy.
Then he bowed his head and gave up his spirit.
Jesus, how does love lead to this? The finality, the injustice, seemingly irreversible, to the point that you would give up your spirit. And then the real horror of this day confronts me. Whenever injustice wins, you are crucified again. Whenever the truth is betrayed, you are crucified again. Whenever fear overwhelms hope, you are crucified again. Whenever peace is overturned by hate, you are crucified again. Whenever love is not our choice, you are crucified again.
Grief. Loss is not the word. Loss can lighten, leave us buoyed. This is dreadful gain. Who once walked beside, made a dance of distance, married swing and stride, in whose estimation we were almost justified, slumps, gives up defense, becomes dead weight, evidence. In such case, the burden is the proof, and witnesses must bear what can't be set aside. The whole task is to grip the shapeless mass entire and lift it to the noble place where love begins, love's skill transforms love's pain into love's crowning grace.
Go, silent friend, and may we cease crucifying you through our living.
We watch on. God have mercy. Christ have mercy.
After all the mocking, all the torture, all the pain, and in front of those who watched from the crowd, Jesus said, "It is finished." Then he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. So go from this moment into the darkness. But know you don't travel alone. For this is where the sacred rests, where divine love is present, before you, beside you, within you, growing, emerging, longing, hoping for the resurrection dawn to come. Embrace this space, and may the peace of God bless you and keep you.